And at this hour, you can see Air Force One taxiing in as he makes his way through the airport tarmac, and he will eventually deplane there, get in a presidential motorcade after being greeted by a number of notable guests,
right,
and people who are important in the community.
Yeah, state and local officials,
yes,
and some dignitaries as well.
Dignitaries, that's the word.
Yeah, he will be greeting, usually, as we've seen this play out before, when any president visits New Orleans, dignitaries and any officials will be greeting him as he steps off of Air Force One. And as Katie just mentioned, he will be making his way to visit not only with some of the local officials to discuss ways that we can protect the city and really the events that are coming up. And really, when you think about this, is essentially is bigger than just protecting the state of Louisiana. This was an attack on America, and so now there's heightened security and heightened FBI and heightened security levels in New Orleans and all around as they investigate more about the attacker and his motives.
Yes, Shamsuddin Jabbar, who ran a truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in the early morning hours of New Year's Day. Of course, 14 people were killed in that attack. Many more, up to 30, were actually hurt. Many of those are still in the hospital as we are covering the president's visit today, still suffering from their injuries, still trying to recover and move beyond the hospital rooms that they have been in since the beginning of the year. Not the way that we wanted to start the year, or frankly to experience this ever. But President Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden coming here to personally meet with some of those victims and share their condolences with them and mourn with our city as they, as Sharice just mentioned, continue to investigate what has been dubbed an act of terrorism. And
we have learned new things. This feels like a very long week, but it feels that every day the FBI is releasing new information about Jabbar, about his travels, about the fact that he visited New Orleans twice, once in October, on October 31st, Halloween Day, and a second time in November before he came back through using Meta glasses. And I think that's the thing that really kind of caught everyone's attention. He used these Meta glasses to travel through the French Quarter by bicycle and targeting or staking out maybe the targets that he was looking for when he planned his attack. Yeah, he ended up planting 2 pipe bombs that were improvised explosive devices. That's the technical classification of them, but they're basically pipe bombs that had a bunch of nails and things, and when they exploded, the idea was for them to do the most damage. And those were placed in 2 locations in the French Quarter. Authorities now saying over the weekend that he was planning those specific locations using those Meta glasses and kind of mapping out his route and where he would put things, and then where he could unfortunately take the greatest number of lives. I really am concerned about the fact that, we initially reported that the FBI was investigating the involvement of 2 to 3 other people, but they said that some people were standing around those coolers, and if you saw those coolers based on the video that they saw, one person moved them. The bomb was initially placed, I believe, on South Peter Street and Bourbon, and someone apparently just dragged the cooler down the street to Bourbon and Orleans. So people were concerned initially, in which this causes the FBI to investigate. They were concerned initially if that person was involved in this terrorist attack, and they ruled them out as being involved and said that Jabbar acted as a lone wolf in this attack. And now you take a deeper dive into what his background is, him being from Houston, finding bomb-making materials in his home in Houston and at the home on Mandeville Street that he rented when he came to New Orleans, was there less than 24 hours and attempted to set the home on fire. Yeah, and we also know now that he took several trips overseas leading up to this attack, and so I think those are some of the big questions that the federal government is going to be trying to answer as we move forward through the next few days and months. They talked this weekend about those visits, and what they wanted to do initially was to rule out whether or not he was getting any assistance from a formal terrorist group. Right. ISIS is who he claimed association with through the flag that was on the back of the truck and through social media posts that he put up in the days leading up to this attack and even the hours leading up to the attack. But the federal government and at the design of the president is going to be taking a look at those intelligence questions. This, as Sharice said, was an attack not only on New Orleans, but it was an attack on America. And so that's why we're seeing such great federal involvement
especially as they continue with that investigation. And you can see right there, Air Force One, the door is open, and the President and First Lady are making their way to the stairs as they will deplane Air Force One.
It looks like we saw him right in the back behind this gentleman right here. But as the President and Dr. Jill Biden make their way to New Orleans, there is a private meeting between President Biden and the victims' families. Then, as we have mentioned, and we're giving you live coverage on, attendance at an interfaith prayer service for peace and healing hosted by the Archdiocese of New Orleans. That starts at 6 o'clock.
Yes, and they're making preparations there, as you can see live from MSY. Secret Service, lots of security there. New Orleans police assisting in the motorcade. That is the presidential motorcade that will be taking off. Of course, interstate exits. If you're headed out and about and have to pick up kids from school at this hour, be prepared to work your way around those interstate closures. Plan another way in order to get to your child's school, because you will not be able to get on or off the interstate once the president is in motion.
Yes, and as we wait for President Biden to come down, and looks like we saw Representative Congressman Troy Carter stepping outside of, peeking outside rather, out of Air Force One. Just to let everyone know that Jeff Landry, Mayor Landry, excuse me, not Mayor Landry, but Mayor Cantrell, plans to meet with the president to have a conversation about federal assistance to evaluate city plans and to identify any vulnerabilities. And that's a big question here as we move forward, as we push forward. How is it that we can protect people on the everyday lives and in the major events that we have? They want to identify those vulnerabilities and enhance security resources ahead of Carnival season, which officially kicked off today. Yeah,
Mayor Cantrell asking for additional federal money to do a survey or a study of New Orleans to identify any weaknesses and vulnerabilities like Bourbon Street that may be ripe for any sort of attack. And that is obviously an urgent request given what we've seen happen in the last few days here in New Orleans with this massacre on Bourbon Street. And hopefully that's going to be a good topic of conversation between them so that they can figure out whether or not we can actually get federal funding for those things. Now, unclear who these dignitaries are who are out there. I know Congressman Troy Carter is expected to be out there. We are also expected to see the congressman also from the Baton Rouge area and other dignitaries who are going to greet the president as he makes his way to this memorial site and to the memorial service. And of course, again, as we mentioned, as the president makes his way through, usually interstates are shut down, so you may want to find another way to get around if you have to get kids out of school. And he did express his condolences. Gave a moving statement, a moving address at Camp David, and also apparently participating in this interfaith service tonight that is happening at St. Louis Cathedral, and there will be heightened security measures for anyone who hopes to attend this service tonight. So Congressman Troy Carter, Congressman Cleo Fields expected to greet the president. We do expect him to meet with Mayor LaToya Cantrell here in New Orleans. You would think that, you know, City Council President Helena Moreno has close ties to Kamala Harris and her campaign. You would think that she would be involved in some sort of discussion with them, but I have not confirmed that. I'm just speculating. Other dignitaries who may be involved, you know, just run the gamut of people involved in this. And there is the president. All right, and we're going to give you a live look right now. President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden stepping out of Air Force One. Let's listen in. Very blustery day out there. You can tell with the winds out there. They are whipping and it is cold. Yeah, we're going through a cold front right now and some wintry weather that's happening and that we typically don't get as much in the South. But you see the President Biden greeting Mayor LaToya Cantrell